Welcome to Annapolis Mosaics. Our program spotlights people in our community who are involved in promoting good human relations. I am Michael Keller, the chair of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission and your host. The commission is a city board that seeks to promote equal opportunity and to eliminate discrimination. My guests today are Ron Phipps and Elfie Eberly from the Orphan Grain Train. Ron and Elfie, welcome to Annapolis Mosaics.
Thank you.
Well, what does the Orphan Grain Train do?
Fundamentally, we share the love of Jesus with people in the form of help, all kinds of help. We help locally, we help internationally, with medical supplies, with sewing supplies, which enables a woman to have a marketable skill with which she can feed her children. Lots of school supplies for children starting to learn to read, and many other things.
Okay, what's the significance of the name of the organization?
Well, it's a funny little name. The orphan comes from the Gospel of John, the 14th chapter, where Jesus says to his disciples, "I will not leave you as orphans, I will come to you." We have 27 branches across the United States, and many of them are in mid-America, and they ship grain and beans and all kinds of things. And originally, the founder of Orphan Grain Train thought we would use trains to go to both coasts. We don't do that. So we have this funny little name we're kind of stuck with.
Well, you made reference a little bit to the founder of the organization. Could you share with our viewers the highlights of the history of Orphan Grain Train? How did it get started? Who created it? What are some of the real important mileposts in the history of Orphan Grain Train?
Well, it's really quite simple, Mike. A pastor in Norfolk, Nebraska, visited Latvia in 1992 when the Iron Curtain came down. What he saw, he brought back to his congregation and said, "Folks, we have to do something. These people are in great need. But how do we do it?" So he went to a member of his, Clayton Andrews, who owns a van line, and said, "How do we help these people?" And Clayton said, "It's easy, Ray. 40-foot container, fill it with what they need, and send it." And that's how it got started. And then it grew exponentially because most people love to help other people. An Orphan Grain Train gives them that opportunity. It's very hands-on helping. And so it has grown.
Give us a sense of the scope of the organization. Again, you see it has grown. It's grown from what size to what size? It's grown in terms of international activities. How's it changed over the years in terms of who gets served?
Well, it has changed enormously. It has grown enormously. It started in this little town of Norfolk, Nebraska,
Right.
where they shipped maybe one container. And it has now grown into a multi-million-dollar charitable organization with a super wonderful charity navigator rating of 4, the very top, and these 27 branches. All the branches are made up of volunteers.
Okay.
The headquarters has a staff, a paid staff of about 15. And because they're all volunteers in these 27 branches, our expense ratio is very low. 99 cents out of every dollar goes to the needy that we seek to serve.
What I'd like to do now is to give our viewers a sense of how many individuals and groups in various parts of the country and the world are helped by Orphan Grain Train. I'd like to basically mention each of some of the areas and circumstances that Orphan Grain Train has been involved with, and then let you elaborate and provide more information about it. So basically what I'd like to do is to talk about some of your more recent and major relief efforts. And from the information about your organization, you're largely a relief organization. In many
Mike,
respects.
I'd like to let Ron talk about that,
Well,
because Ron is the man who puts together inventories for all these places.
Okay. Well, we're gonna let's look at some specific ones. You help volcano victims in Guatemala. Did you know that?
Now, as far as Guatemala is concerned, we have not shipped to Guatemala. That is to say, when I say we, the Maryland branch.
Okay.
Other branches have.
Okay. Okay. Did you want to talk then about specifically what Maryland's branch is doing?
Probably do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's hear.
Well, we do. First of all, just to back up a little bit, I think it's important to explain our mission, and our mission is quite simple.
Okay.
We allow people who have more than they need to share their abundance with those in need.
Okay.
It's really that simple. So we collect donations. That's all we do. We get something that people want to give to us. We sort it and ship it out. So where do we ship it? Well, internationally, we ship to Kyrgyzstan, to India, to South Sudan, to Liberia. I can go on. It must be about 12 or 15 countries. Our branch does. And then with respect to disaster relief, we ship to anywhere there's a problem that they've had problems. Crisfield with the Hurricane Sandy.
Right.
Ellicott City just recently. We're now shipping, as a matter of fact, in a few days we're going to ship to Florida because of Hurricane Michael. So the bottom line is we ship wherever there's a need, and that's what we do.
Yeah. For example, I just sort of jotted down some areas of the world that Orphan Grain Train has been involved with, just to sort of give our viewers a sense of the scope of your operation. I mentioned earlier the volcano victims in Guatemala, the wildfire victims in Oklahoma. You've mentioned the hurricanes, the aftermath of hurricanes Harvey, Irma, Maria, and now you can add Florence and Michael to the list. Haiti, Liberia, Russia, and the former Soviet republics. And those are all areas that the organization has been involved. That's a very, very impressive listing.
And it's important to note, I think, that wherever there's a need, we ship. It does, so, quite frankly, the countries or the states doesn't mean anything. If there's a need, we have the stuff, we send it.
Sometimes, Mike, what determines where we ship is customs issues. We shipped a lot to Russia, a long period of time. We no longer ship there because the customs regulations are so onerous that it makes it impossible for us to do that. So that is always a concern. But we certainly, Haiti, the earthquake, in fact, we have an Orphan Grain Train office, warehouse, and a storage area in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, because the need there is enormous. And now, Annapolis has this very close connection to the lost boys. Those lost boys are now men of Sudan.
Okay, yeah.
And so we are shipping a lot to those people because, again, they're people in dire need. And so we ship, as I said, life-giving, life-saving. So we want to ship where it is most needed. And right now, for us, that is South Sudan and Liberia and India.
So those are your major areas of focus right now.
At the moment. That changes. As the conditions change, that changes.
In fact, it may be helpful to what are our criteria for shipping?
Okay, well, what are your criteria for shipping?
That's an excellent question, Mike. There are really 4 criteria. First of all, the country to whom we ship, is that going to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ? That's the first criteria. Second is, the second criteria is there a genuine need? We don't want to ship frivolously. If there's not a need, we don't. So first of all, advance the gospel. Is there a need? Third, do we have the inventory? We get donations from everybody, but do we have the appropriate inventory for this specific country or area? And the fourth is, can be afforded. And really, that's the criteria that we use for every shipment. And this past year, we've shipped 9 containers plus a whole bunch of disaster relief stuff.
Well, you've mentioned 3 specific areas that right now you're focusing on, and fully understand that things could change within 24 hours depending on what happens internationally. But I think it would be useful just to get your sense of what exactly prompted you to choose these specific countries. And you mentioned South Sudan, you mentioned Liberia, and you mentioned India. So what specifically do you have going on in each of those areas?
Well, that's very easy to answer, Mike.
Okay.
South Sudan, because of the Lost Boys and that connection, we know they live here in Annapolis, some Lost Boys. And so we are shipping to the hometown of one of them, Jacob Puka.
Okay.
And Liberia, we met a gentleman who comes from the jungle of Liberia, where we are shipping, and he was rescued from the civil war that occurred there. They had a very long civil war. And he lives in Fort Wayne, Indiana, made it his life's work to evangelize and to educate the children of Liberia. So he has 5,500 children now that are going to school for the first time. So because we met him and he introduced us to that, he tells us exactly what they need. He visits there 4 times a year. That's why we ship to Liberia. And India, we have a retired president of Concordia College up in Bronxville, New York. And he is Indian by birth, and he wants to help the people there. We have a hospital, Scudder Memorial Hospital, that is in great need. And again, he is the one that has connected us to those folks and tells us exactly what they need.
What are the logistics of how Orphan Grain Train provides assistance? And in short, how does the operation work?
It's really quite simple. The country, whether it be India, whether it be South Sudan or Liberia or Cuba, we will ask them, what do you need? And they will give us an inventory of exactly what they need. For instance, right now we're shipping to South Sudan, and later on we want to talk, I'm sure, about solar lighting. But that's one very big thing for South Sudan, and they want clothes and crutches and canes and wheelchairs and hospital equipment. So we will get, and then we will say, just like I said in our criteria, do we have it? And often we do, because we get donations, constant donations. So then we will then develop an inventory. And then we will ask headquarters, the staff in Norfolk, Nebraska, now this part is way above our volunteer heads. This is to gather up the container, the customs regulations, and they do all that for us. And then once they do that, we pick a day, and a big old 40-foot container shows up at a warehouse. We have it all lined up, open the container, throw it in, and off it goes.
What about the solar lighting you mentioned?
Oh boy, I'll let you talk about
We're
that.
very excited about that.
Let's hear about it.
In both South Sudan and in Liberia, they have absolutely no electrical grid.
Where we ship, yeah.
Yes. So when it gets dark, all activity stops. I've been told in Liberia it's dangerous to go outside of your hut. There are wild animals, there are snakes. And so we have discovered through a friend these little solar lights. They're called Lucy lights.
Okay.
They're very affordable. They're $10 a piece. And they give a lot of light. You put them out in the sun and you have 10 hours of light. And you can read by it, you can do your work by it. The elderly are safe. They are amazing. The company, Empowered, that we get them from, has been very generous with donations in addition to what we purchase. When we purchase a larger number, then they will donate. And so we have a goal now of raising the money for 10,000 Lucy lights that will go to both South Sudan and Liberia.
Well, what aspect of your work with Orphan Grain Train have you found to be most meaningful to you? What gives you the greatest amount of satisfaction in terms of the work that you're doing?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask both of you this question.
We got from first of all, I can read it. I can almost memorize this. The Lost Boy of Sudan, to whom we shipped his village and to his mother, and of course he. I don't know what you know about the Lost Boys of Sudan, but they escaped from Sudan and so forth. And he was a lost boy, so he experienced this help from the United States. He wrote such a touching letter that said that he knows what it feels like to get this stuff. They just don't have it. And all of a sudden, this 40-foot container shows up, and they open it up, and it's like Christmas. So, and that happens regularly.
I think some of our viewers would probably say, well, what is those lost boys from South Sudan? For the benefit of those individuals, could you just briefly say, who are the Lost Boys? How did they get into that category?
In the late 80s, the Lost Boys, there was a conflict, a civil war, and they escaped. They were being bombed, and their parents said, when you see bombs, go run. And the Lost Boys were in cattle camps, so they're all by themselves. And the boys from 7 to 14, they started running. Well, they ran all the way across Sudan into Ethiopia. Many died. These are boys, babies. It's just amazing. They got into Ethiopia. Across, a lot of died. They couldn't swim in the river. And then they ended up in Camp Kakuma, which is in Kenya. They languished there for 10 years and learned English. And then the United States brought many of them here, and they're all across the country. Many of which live right here in Annapolis. And then their motto was, educated is my mother and my father. So we raised money for them to go to school. Two things, go to school or go back to find their parents. Almost every lost boy here, every boy in Annapolis got their degree. In fact, Jacob Puka got his master's degree from Johns Hopkins in
nuclear radiology.
Yes. So anyway, their story is so inspiring, and we're happy to have them here.
Yep. Elfie, what's most meaningful to you?
It's all the stories that we get from people, individuals that we have helped. There's Nadia. She lives in Haiti. And in the earthquake, her legs were pinned under an iron gate. She lost her legs. She could not work. She had 4 children. Orphan Grain Train container arrives. There is a pet wheelchair, so she can function with that wheelchair. She could get a job, and she can support her children. We've got children in Liberia, never had the opportunity to go to school. They never had the opportunity. They now are learning to read, and they're reading about their Savior, Jesus Christ. Their lives, not only, first of all, they have their first step on the road out of poverty. They can read, but now they have hope, the hope that we get from faith in Jesus Christ. So it is so enormously satisfying to think we share with these people things that we are throwing in the trash, and it is their treasure and substantially changes their lives. You know, we are blessed, I believe, we're blessed by the Lord to be a blessing. And Orphan Grain Train is a blessing to thousands.
Talk about the shunts.
We have a shunt program. A shunt is a medical device implanted in the brain, the back of the brain of a hydrocephalic child and some stroke victims. And many years ago, our missionary in St. Petersburg, Russia, told me that the Poland Neurosurgical Institute there needed shunts. The babies were dying. And so she gave me an 800 number. I call that 800 number, and the company has donated. And to this day, the CEO told me that whatever you need, Elfie, just ask. So every shunt saves a life, and we've sent over $2 million in shunts.
2 million?
Over $2 million in value of shunts we have sent. We've sent 2,500 shunts we've sent them to Panama, to Kyrgyzstan, to Nicaragua, and to St. Petersburg.
You know, our viewers love these stories. Do you have any others that you can share with us?
Well,
because it really gets to the heart of what the Orphan Grain Train does.
It really does. It really does. Now, we have talked only about international. We do a lot local.
Well, how about that? What do you do?
Have a walkout program.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. On our video, there is a young lady, and there are many of these stories, whose father broke his leg, and she was caring for him. And her physician said, I can't get you a hospital bed for 2 or 3 weeks. Well, she came to us. We gave her a hospital bed. We gave her a wheelchair. We gave her a shower. We gave her everything she needed at no cost. And what we tell people in the walkout program is, this is yours to keep forever, but if you are done with it and you'd like to donate it back, we will receive it. And we have had, I can tell you, many people come in with tears in their eyes, say, thank you so much that we could get what we needed to care for our loved one. So if anyone is out there that needs a wheelchair, a walker, a cane, a shower chair, please get a hold of us. And we'll give you the information as to how you do that.
And we'll give you the merchandise.
How about another story from the domestic front? Anything else you'd like to do?
Well, we take hundreds and hundreds of coats, warm winter coats, into Baltimore, to churches that are in the inner city of Baltimore, and they distribute them to those that need them most. We also helping up mission. It's a mission that is very successful, working with addicts of all kinds. And they also help the families of the addicts. And so we have taken a lot of clothing there. We have collected men's suits, and we've gotten beautiful men's suits for the immigrants coming into Baltimore. Because they come, they have very little in the way of finances, and they're looking for jobs. So they have a nice suit to wear when they go for their interview.
You mentioned that Orphan Grain Train is predominantly an all-volunteer organization.
Yes.
What do volunteers do?
Well, they do everything. They do everything. Volunteer are the wind under our wings. They sort and pack clothing and other donations every Tuesday at the warehouse, every second Saturday, and intermittently when groups come. We have groups of people coming from companies. We have students coming from many of our schools who need service hours, and they sort and pack. Volunteers load containers. It's a lot of hard work. A 40-foot container takes a lot of stuff. And we
and also just today, some volunteers are going up to Bel Air, Maryland, to pick up 73 boxes of harvest pack food. These are where one can be little packets that people can use, and we're going to send that to South Sudan. And right now they're driving up there. They'll come back with those boxes, and we'll load it up this Friday.
Yes, you know, we are very interdenominational in the sense that many churches work with us. We're picking up paper goods from the Methodist Mission Center up in Pennsylvania because we're taking this truck down to Panama City, Florida, and the church there is feeding 2,000 people a day. And so they've asked for paper goods along with food and many other things. So our volunteers, and oh my goodness, beginning with this wonderful man, they give sacrificially of their time. Ron Phipps has never said no to me, never. And I mean that word literally. We have people that work in the warehouse almost every day of the week. They do everything. They organize our inventory. They move racking around. They take care of everything warehouse. There are lots of jobs that need to be taken care of, and they do that.
Yeah.
And
How many people worldwide would you say have been touched by Orphan Grain Train?
Oh my! By all of Orphan Grain Train?
Yeah, just give us a
my goodness, in the billions.
Billions of people.
Oh, in the billions, easily.
So your outreach is just extraordinary.
It really is. And what is so amazing is that, as you said, we're mostly volunteers. We have a very small staff in Nebraska.
We're virtually all volunteers.
We
That's
really
staff.
are.
The only thing that staff does is arrange for customs for us.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that many of our viewers are going to want to learn more about Orphan Grain Train and perhaps become volunteers themselves. How can they get in touch with you? Do you have a website, a telephone number, an email? Can you share that information with us?
I hope that many of you will get on our website. It is very simple, www.ogt.org/MD for Maryland. And that'll take you straight to our site. You can watch our video. It's a picture of our warehouse, so you know what you're looking for, and our operational hours. It'll give you all the information you need, phone numbers, addresses, and everything. I hope to hear from you.
Thank you for viewing our program today, and please join us again on Annapolis Mosaics. If you would like to have more information about the Annapolis Human Relations Commission, jot down the information on your screen. You can reach us at 410-263-7998 or by email at hrcommission@annapolis.gov, or check out our page at the City of Annapolis website. Go to www.annapolis.gov, click on the city government icon, then the boards and commissions icon, and you can scroll down to the Human Relations Commission page. And always remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We have flown the air like birds and swum the seas like fishes, but have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth as brothers and sisters."